Hey everybody, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. Long time no see. And just wanted to really just hang out with you guys today. I wanted to share with you a little bit of where we are with the Last Colony and the comic book, and overall things are progressing. So I wanted to talk about that today. And I wanted to also go through, it's a dangerous subject. it's a venture down. But really what I want, hold on one second. Okay. So really what I wanted to do, and of course this is live, so it's the one-man show here. So one of the things that I wanted to do is Jeff Corey. Yo, man. Hope you're doing well. Miss you, dude. But one of the things, there's lots of good stories with Jeff. We were buddies and we were roommates in college, and lots of good stories. One including a printer, but we'll leave it at that. And tossing the printer off of a stadium. So pretty cool stuff. Any case, I lost my complete track. People are talking to me right now. It's just like, all right, one track mind here. So what I wanted to do is, I mentioned the Last Colony. I was going to say that before all this other chaos that I hate to dive into it, but this is the world we live in now. So I'll dive into a little bit of comic news, and you just, we'll work through that. But in any case, I also wanted to go over a couple of websites and just kind of go into just comic book content in general, in terms of making comics, in terms of developing comics, and some of the things that I have learned along the way, some resources that are really good. And so anyway, I kind of wanted to dive into that subject, as many people do watch this outside of the live stream, and so kind of want to open up for that too. So one thing is about, what should I dive in first? Should we dive into let's talk about the good, the gratitude. Let's talk about the Last Colony stuff to start off with. So with the Last Colony, we have, I think the last time we talked, we were finishing up the edits of all the pages and that sort of thing. And then shortly after that, it was a much needed family vacation. We went on a good family vacation, and just got away for a little bit and had a really good time with the family and kids and all that sort of stuff. And it was really good to get away. Ate some really good pizza. I don't even remember the pizza joint we went out, but it was kind of like it's what like Papa John's should be, where like they make it in front of you like a Subway sandwich, but then they bake it in front of you too. And in this nice, what do they call those stone oven deals? Any case, it was really good. I don't even remember the name of the place. Ate a really good gyro place. Can't pass up the falafels. And then we it was also involved. There was looked like a police chase happening around it too. And it was just sort of a weird, just sort of a crazy thing. Anyway, so that was going on. And then, so that was good to get away and get a kind of a moment with that. And then I also, gosh, what else happened in this time frame? So another big development, and we sent this off actually to everyone that backed for the project. So we are officially copyrighted, which is really, really awesome. And all that sort of stuff went off to, where'd it go off to? Went off to the Library of Congress. It was copyrighted, all that sort of stuff, all that paperwork, signed it off, and it is official. So that's some really, really cool news. And that's just, and I even put a blog post up of it. Let's see if I can show that to you guys a little bit. But window. There we go. There we go. So yeah, so we're officially brought, yeah, there's our link to our show. So we're officially copyrighted. And the other part of that too, that kind of went in tandem, is that we were trademarking also the last colony and going through that. So that's kind of taking a little bit longer, and that's expected, but that's kind of like where everything's going at this moment in time, where it goes through these, it just we have to sign off on it, and then it gets registered, and it goes through the, government offices and all those sort of things. So it just takes time to do that. And so that's kind of where that is right now. And irregardless of whatever the heck happens with that, we intend to move forward. We haven't seen any kind of indication from either the lawyers or from the government to indicate that we've messed up in any way, shape, or form towards this. So that's really good news too, because it's kind of a nervous at the beginning of August when we started this process. It was just kind of this, okay, you just kind of going through it. And so far the reports and indications are that we are coasting through that, which is absolutely fantastic for the trademark stuff, for the title specifically getting trademarked. And then also this is kind of a side subject, but like the Tikva comics logo that we have, getting that getting that trademarked. So we're going through some really cool stuff that's really quite exciting, just in the overall progression, not only of this project, but certainly with you guys being able to participate in the backing of this project. It's helped propel other things into it. That is absolutely awesome. We also worked with the printer, and the printer is set to, I don't know the exact date, and this is kind of where it's just kind of ambiguity land from, but we have been working with them. I think my last contact with them was Tuesday, 2 days ago, and I hope to make another just sort of a check-in with them again on Friday. But what will happen with that next step is I will get a full proof, physical proof, and we'll do a video. We'll probably do it. Hopefully, I'm hoping next week we'll do but we'll see, a video of that and show you guys the proof of what you guys will ultimately be getting with that comic. And then also for those that are getting the ash can as well. And one really cool thing is I'm really excited about that part, because we get to do I'm going to be doing a little bit of a surprise with the ash can. And it'll be, I won't want to give too much away, but we'll talk about it when we get the proof in. But in any case, we'll be adding a little bit of a personalized drawing from me to you. So I thought that was pretty cool. And each individual that got the ash can will have that personalized drawing. Probably gave too much details there, but that'll be really cool. So I'm looking forward to that. What other pieces are rolling around right now? And of course, everyone will get and I'm looking at it right now on my screen. I'm not going to show you guys because I'm really excited about this. So also the poster for that is slated to be printed as well next week. And so everything should be in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We'll kind of wait and see. And obviously we live in a wild, crazy world of things that I have no control over, but I will keep you up to date and in the loop with each and every piece that kind of rolls in. And when there is no news, I'll be also kind of filling you in on where things are with that goes. So because we do certainly appreciate you guys chipping in, helping us, and any all sorts of whoever, all the people that have tipped have joined in to really help us out and make this an awesome possibility. And so the poster that was the other part, to get that printed next week and try to think of anything else. Those are kind of all the sort of the big headlines for the last colony. One thing that was a lot of fun as we were over these last couple of weeks of kind of, in a lot of ways, going on vacation, spending that time with the family, and getting the project 99% finished. It's just like, you get this huge load of this monkey off the shoulder sort of thing, and you're just little bit of a breath. And I certainly needed that moment, because it's gonna start picking up for me here in the next couple weeks. And so I knew that this was sort of that lull of time period to be able to kind of figure out all the pieces and just kind of roll into the next blaze of all the other things happening in around different projects. And so in any case, needed that much needed break. So thank you. And you guys are absolutely awesome, and certainly couldn't do this work without you. So that's that. And that's the coolest part with all this, is that and you see, I saw an article the other day, and I didn't necessarily have it here. I should actually post it in the blog, or find it again and post it in the blog. But there was actually a article of how writers from Marvel and DC, because of how certain projects are being handled in a sense of royalties and all those types of things, that they're leaving DC and Marvel altogether, and they're going to their own thing. And this sort of idea of, crowdfunding and all this sort of stuff is really, in a positive way, changing the landscape. And, in a lot of ways, comic books were always sort of a grassroots exercise of crazy things and crazy stories being told. And up until recently, the past 20, 25 years, it's become increasingly more mainstream. And so you have movies like, I saw a trailer today for the Eternals and all this sort of stuff, or possibilities and opportunities for, like, you have books like Dune and all this sort of stuff. And in any case, back to the comics, it's such an awesome opportunity that we're sitting at a really good time frame as far as all these sort of pieces and opportunities coming together at the same time to make this, a reality for a lot of different artists that are out there. And not just artists in general, like, little Elijah Loving here, but that big time artists and illustrators are doing this too. So really quite exciting in terms of reaching out to comic book stores directly and working with you guys directly, which is really the whole name of the game here. Don't think there's any kind of other big news in around the last colony. Like I said, we should be, we're kind of in that time period where I'm not able to give exact dates yet. But we're really in that nice window where I should know more next week. I hope to know more tomorrow for sure, but we'll kind of see. It just, once it leaves your computer and is uploaded to the Borg system of the internet, that it's kind of in their hands. And the best thing that we can do at this point in time is be that squeaky wheel to get the project done. So that's kind of our job at this point in time. And I was also going to say one thing that was really neat about finishing up that project, and this kind of leads into, maybe we might just skip the stupid news altogether, because it's pretty dark and heavy, right? So one of the things is that when you're going through, I don't know, I don't think I necessarily have anything up for it. In any case, one of the things is that when you're going through a project, you're developing the project, right? Develop the script, and then you develop the panels, and then you go back to the script and rework the panels. And then after you do that, then you start, laying out your comic book pages, and then you go into the type pencil, and then into inking, the coloring, all this sort of stuff. And then at the very end, you go back to your script that you had originally, and you start lettering and putting that all in the comic. But then as you go through and you're reading that comic with, of course, the panel and everything is organized. And this is my process. That other artists kind of do other things. But this is what I found that works best for me, is that then I will go through with that script, and we'll go over it with my wife, Erin, and we'll kind of, for the most part, we could find little discrepancies of maybe things need to be more clear here, or have discussions of like, well, I thought he was going to say something here, but it turns out it's kind of almost redundant. So you find this is kind of your final edit sort of the movie, your final cut, if you will. And then from that final cut, then it was kind of neat to go through that stage this time, because just seeing all that work and little nuggets and pieces that are going to set up the rest of the story, and see all that legwork happen here at the beginning was really quite exciting. It was fun to really see that part and see those fruits, or those seeds rather, starting to ultimately produce fruits down the road. So that was really, really cool. And I really look forward to that as we go into the next part of the comic. And as this is the introduction, if you will, or the first chapter, and but at the same time setting those pieces up into its ultimate, well, I guess I did have it up here too, as far as like back to the things you need to know as a comic book artist, is that hero's journey, and going through that hero's journey. Not only we do that on our day-to-day lives, but then this is kind of a really good sound way of expressing a story. And that most stories in one form or another follow this hero's journey of, the best example, the best modern example is the original Star Wars, The New Hope, that call to action, and the idea of the supernatural when he starts meeting Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then leaving his guardians as they're dead, and all this sort of stuff. And then ultimately, finding the helper, Han Solo, or a mentor, you have that Obi-Wan Kenobi sort of stuff. And then that presentation of the challenge of leaving your home and going out into the galaxy, and then meeting other helpers along the way. Leia, they eventually rescue. And of course, that whole story with the abyss and the death or rebirth, they literally fall down into the trash can. Like, how much more of hell can you get in terms of the abyss? They were in the abyss. And so they come out of that abyss, or that came out of that challenge, as new beings, cleaned through the baptism of fire, so to speak. And then out of that, they are a new team, cohesive, united. And then ultimately they are, pushed out into a task of destroying the Death Star. And then from there, you go have the rest of the story, and then ultimately return and reward and all those sort of things. Any case, that's the hero's journey is such a good example. And I don't remember the other, there's another one. Well, I'll have to, again, these links, I should post them all on the blog. But there's another few artists out there that are really good. And it's just that break this down, this hero's journey down even further. And something you might, especially if you're developing a comic book, there's ones out there that kind of break this down into like almost like segmented episodes in a lot of ways, and which is kind of really good in a lot of ways for that comic book format. As you present a problem, solution, solving that problem, but then you have a bigger arc of that problem. And that's something that I got with The Last Colony. It gets away from that in a little ways. and it's more of chapter 1, chapter 2. It's more of like a total book and vision for a full graphic novel, which we've talked about in the past and all those types of things. So I guess the big thing is that with making a comic, there is a lot of voices out there. There is, in terms of what are some good resources and that sort of stuff of making comics. And I, like I said, I was thinking about talking about the news. I mean, I'll just briefly mention before we dive onto this sort of subject. This is just, we live in crazy times. We don't need, like, you can see me scratching my head. We live in wild times. And I think the key to all of this, that where when we're going through dark times or heavy times, the importance of gratitude. I think that is such a huge piece to this, and why it's important for me personally, and why I think it's important for you guys also, and one for another, as well as to support other artists out there. Like I said in the past, I have a little bit of my budget to each month goes to supporting an artist, some comic book creator out there, and supporting their crowdfund, all that sort of stuff. And so I try my best to do that on a month-to-month basis, because it is important. That's how we make this idea of grassroots and us connecting to each other real, and continue those relationships, because we live in a time where like it's just I'll just start with this one. He's never going to finish. Let me just say my commentary here. He's so distracted. Hey, he's an old guy. How old is he, George R.R. Martin? How old is he? 70s, 80s? Good for him. Good for him. Maybe, I don't know. Good for him. I think the thing is here, and this brings back to the comic book of with the Last Colony, is that we all understand and can afford another person some space and time. Me personally, doing these live streams and that sort of thing, I like doing them in the sense of connecting with you guys, but in a lot of ways, I'm also a very private person. I like the time to tinker and do art, and maybe a little bit of video games, and time with family, and time to just decompress and do other things. Go coach soccer, whatever it might be. Those are kind of watch soccer with my kids. Sporting Kansas City tied last night. I don't like Portland, but whatever, good for them. Go to the zoo, whatever. I like, but so I get it from that point of view of just like, you know what, he just wants to get away and do his own thing. But the other side of it, and the flip side of it, is the importance to connect with your base and not just string them along, which is, maybe when you made a couple $1 million, you've earned the right, I guess, to string people along. I don't think that's necessarily appropriate. It doesn't matter how much money you've made. But that you continue to encourage others to grow, and that you move your project forward. And maybe he's got some major writer's block going right now. I don't know. I don't know. And maybe he's just distracted. Maybe there's only him, and maybe he's never really hired anyone around him or a team around him to push his project forward. And that's something that's in the back of my mind. That's something that would be really nice to do, is to bring someone on, or a group of a team to see these projects blossom and make them happen. And because, even though name is on this book. In a lot of ways, it certainly can't happen with a lot of other people involved. Even if I did the coloring, the inking, the penciling, and all these sort of things, it still couldn't have happened with other people involved. Anyway, that's just kind of my 2 cents behind it, and I'll leave it at that. So good luck to him. I guess the thing of it is that when you're developing that comic book, a couple of resources that I have found really helpful. This particular web page, and I'll post it. Actually, what I should do is I should keep all these up instead of closing them out. But in any case, I will post this up in the blog of this episode that is the live stream. So you guys will have access to this later. Both I haven't read this book, but this book is really good in terms of just this Will Eisner comic books and sequential art. It actually is a really good book. Scott McCloud, you can't go wrong with him in terms of breaking down the philosophy and the understanding of what is comics and what is sequential art and the process and the ideas of going through and making sequential art. Really fantastic books. Words for Pictures. Both of these books are really good. I haven't read these before, but these are all really good books right here. The Guide to Making Comics, Carl Potts. A interesting character. I think he has some, clearly, in ideas of making the Punisher among other works, and just the ideas of really breaking into the philosophy of what it is to tell stories, pictorial, sequential art stories, and through this, what's known as the Marvel way of, show it through pictures and not necessarily rely on the words to be able to tell your story. I'm of the point of view, and certainly Scott McCloud really brings that out, that there's a number of ways if you can do that, and you balance them out with the type of story you're ultimately trying to tell. So in any case, I thought that was, but I would check out both of those books. Those are really good books. Writing for Comics, each one of these are actually really good. I haven't read these two. Alan Moore, Writing for Comics. He's kind of a grumpy guy, but hey, again, like George Ramos, you can be grumpy. It's okay. Lighting, the ink book is really good in the sense of lighting. I did have, let me bring up that link for you guys. I'll post this in the bar as well. But anyway, this is on ArtStation. It's actually a really good, especially for the painting, or even if you're doing your light and shadow. I'm just moving this toggle, and the really cool thing is you can move this head around, and then you can kind of break it down into shapes as far as your shadows go. Anyway, this is a really good resource. I absolutely love this resource. Just in terms of, you have a light from up here. Let's see if you can see. So the light's back here, and it just, okay. So it helps you understand, because it's one of these things that artists, that we can really study this content and spend a lot of time studying the art of drawing and drawing figures and faces and all those types of things. But, how often would you, oh yeah, I forgot about that shadow or that type of thing, or, a lot of times we'll remember this, and you can kind of, but it's a really good, especially with a planar face. The nice thing about planar face is that it gives you kind of each plane of the face, or where highlights might exist, where you have all these colors, and then this would be a nice right here, these two shapes right here, that you would highlight as shapes that you can really make them pop on the, create that almost a silhouette of sorts. Any case, this is really, I absolutely love this. It's probably one of my favorite web pages. He breaks it down. He shows you all the different angles down here. But you can hit play button, and I'll do it here too. You can slow it down. Anyway, really good resource for artists out there. just in terms of, yeah, like that, just the nuances of how that light. Now, this is me geeking out, guys. This is the stuff I geek out about. I love how that light really captures that face there, and you get this. One thing about this little model that's kind of nice is you can see here it gets a little bit darker on that edge, and that's where the shadow should be dark in terms of a form shadow. And then you have other cast shadows going on here, breaking into a form shadow, from cast shadow, form shadow, all that sort of stuff. Really cool stuff. I mean, I guess I'd highly recommend that, this webpage. Like I said, I'll post this up in my, after I do this live stream, I'll post it up on, what do you call it? On my blog. So you have all the links there. All these 3 books, the perspective books are really good. I do on my, shameless plug coming up here, but I do on my, this, Haji Stylus is really, really, really good. So one thing about the Haji Stylus, in that in particular with, perspective, is that it can be like 1 point perspective. Okay, all lines point to that direction. 2 point, okay, we get it. But when you start getting into 3 point perspective, it can get really sort of, messy. And one thing that can really happen is that if you don't, when you're working within the confines, and this is where practicing perspective can be really, really useful. Not only in terms of telling stories and that sort of thing, and it might not match your style, so maybe perspective isn't your thing, which is fine too. But if you're going to do perspective, there's a lot of tools I wish I knew about prior. I mean, for example, a lot of artists will use Google Earth to kind of plot out, and nice thing about New York City is that it's all pretty much in 3D form, and you can plot that whole thing out, which is really kind of crazy. And then you can get down to the street level, and you can grab these ideas and then put them in forms of textures. And both of these books, the frame perspective 1 and 2, kind of capture some of that, of how you can take a picture. Maybe you're on a walk, or maybe you see a picture on, I don't know, somewhere, as far as like on your search engines, right? You grab that picture, and then you can kind of, change the perspective and to match what you have, and use that as a guide, on your, so you don't have to draw each little stone or each little windowsill or all those types of things. And it can help you figure all that out, and you're not having to do it all by hand completely, which is kind of a nice little hack. And it's something that I think last time we were on with Dan Ekus, we talked a little bit about that, of how any way that you can grab from something and then adjust it, and then as artists be able to expand it and make that grow into something that, is an invention of your own universe, whatever you're creating. In any case, these 2 books are really good. This perspective book is really good too. And with the, Haji Stylus that I have in my about page, is that being able to draw straight lines to those vanishing points, which is a really nice tool, or using Google Earth or some sort of thing like that, or using, I don't know what else is out there, pictures that you might find on a search engine, and that you can crop down or cut out, and then use Photoshop to be able to mess around with the perspective, which is really, really cool. There's also 3D models out there, using 3D models. That's another really good way, especially for the more complex designs. I think in, who is it? Jason Brubaker's stuff, where he talks, where some of his designs, be it a boat design or some sort of apparatus, or that he's using for some sort of Frankenstein monster, getting a 3D model and developing or paying someone to make that 3D model, even though, and you're just basically, as an artist, you're directing that of what that looks like and how that feels. And then, you can change the angle of it slightly, change your perspective, and all those sort of things are already dealt with. And then with this sort of thing back in the art station, this is where like a 3D model artist can then, play around with and give you the ability to mess around with the light as far as like, oh, okay, this is how it would create a form shadow, cast shadow, all those types of things, which is really, really cool. So that's where like perspective, there's so many hacks out there. It's sort of endless. Instead of, and how I was taught and was to do it all by hand, all by like the, you got your rulers and all those sort of things out. And, it can get really, really messy. So I like using Photoshop for any type of perspective stuff. And you can get lost in it too. Certainly this helps you get kind of a basis to be able to roll with it and at least feel, if not look, proficient with it too. So anyway, these books are really good for that. I haven't looked at the inking techniques here. Noir Comics, it's kind of cool. I haven't checked out that one, but the book looks cool. My big thing with inking is there's like, you have your brush people, or you have your quill people. I like using, and I think I've talked about, I like the Copic markers or the Copic pens. Big fan of their stuff. Microns are really good too. I've used their stuff in the past. Really whatever works for you the best. Lettering. A lot of these books I haven't checked out, so I don't know. But lettering, let me check out this for you. So there is 2 really good pages for this. One is this Comic Craft page, and this is where actually you're going to buy you buy the rights or the license, and this is your license agreement. Anyway, for a particular font that you want to use, and they have, and you're going to pay, $100, $200, $80 for some of these. And that's where what did I end up using? I think I used Jim Lee's for the Last Colony. I think that's what I used. But you have a lot of cool things. I mean, to take some of this stuff, and which is pretty cool. Really cool. And that way, the nice thing, and you can certainly make your own too. That's also really, really cool. You can certainly make your own, and that's perfectly legitimate and fine, and maybe even if that's your thing, absolutely. But the nice thing about this is that they have lots of good resources. They also have kind of a lettering guide here too, which is a sort of a book. Also another really good book that kind of helps break it down into sort of the do's and the don'ts and how you might go about doing that, creating some of these combinations and those sort of things, especially with sound effects. So anyway, I'd recommend this book as well. And some of, Will Eisner is so good at just some of his techniques of his light and shadow, light and dark, and with the spirit and all that sort of stuff. Excellent resource. So I would recommend this. This is another really good resource. There also is the Balloon Tales, and this kind of gets into kind of your topics from lettering, and they have all sorts of really good tips here. I'd recommend you kind of looking at and getting into. Let's see here. Yeah. 8 steps for creating your own lettering font. Really cool. Use Illustrator. And they also point you to, excuse me. They also point you to, I don't remember the name of, there's applications. I think this gets into it. Yeah. Tool Type. It's a really expensive one. This is actually a really good breakdown of making your own letter font and all that sort of stuff, and kind of the the art of font. And the nice thing about doing something like this is that you could brand your own and then, sell it. That would be really cool too. Sell that. And that might be sort of a thing. You build a team. Maybe what you do is you build a team, and then, you kind of design something, and then they do this, and then you can pay them for making your stuff. It's always real cool. Publishing. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, these are all just really good articles. I know you look at it like, oh my gosh, that's from 2007, which the industry certainly has changed, but there's some good content there. And this is certainly during a time before, a lot of ways before Kickstarter or a lot of those sort of things really took off and started. Artists really started pushing in that particular direction. So I don't know. It's interesting, and it's important to know the history of what you're getting into as well. But I digress. And then, of course, the nice thing about this too is they have a kind of a list down here of different font places you can legitimately get fonts and use those fonts. Like I said, I liked these guys, Comic Craft, I guess, fonts. So they're good stuff. Good stuff. There's also Blambot. They're okay. Can't complain too much about that, but these guys are definitely made for comic book artists. Their specific goal is to sell to comic book artists or letterers for that matter. So there's Blambot. There's Journey. Oh, and then one last thing is that this is actually who we used for our copywriting. So yeah, it's not cheap, but in any case, especially if you want to copyright something, and I think it's important to do that because you worked hard at it and you want to put your name on it and all those types of things. So in any case, I think that's kind of all. I had all this news articles. I don't even want to look at it. This is Boba Fett. We're going to change the name to Slave One. I don't know. We don't want to hit the news. And here's the reason why. It's not that we want to avoid it. I think it's important to see all sides of the news and kind of look at all the subjects and realize where we are. And I think the mandates are incredibly scary stuff. But with all that being said, I really think it's important that whatever decision that we make on how we go about our lives, whatever those decisions are, the most important thing that we do is that we have gratitude. I think that's it. That's where we end the show. We have gratitude. There we go. The games begin. Oh, okay. I belong in the kitchen. Well, you know what? That's walking on. What was that? Walking on coals? It's like those guys that walk on coals or something. Not for me. In any case. So it's just important to have gratitude and to have that joy and thanksgiving for the things that we do have and the opportunities that we have. And I hope with that gratitude that you guys have given me in supporting this project, even if you necessarily haven't actually monetarily supported this project, that you're a huge part of this, and the gratitude that I feel for artists that are trying to really legitimately make it go at it and figure out a way of like, okay, do I have enough followers even to bring in the type of money I'm wanting to bring in, or what kind of money do I think I could raise on a crowdfunding? Kind of doing an audit of your base of, okay, how much money do you think I can raise based upon the book that I'm trying to produce, and those average numbers. And or coming up with an expense sheet or those types of things. These are huge pieces that certainly have made this a awesome success, but that it's a propelling to the next thing, that we don't take that gratitude that I've been given from you guys, that I don't take it for granted, that we push that forward, which is certainly that next part of me being that squeaky wheel to get this project printed and then shipped off to you. I don't know if you can see behind me, if I can get right. Get rid of this thing. Remove. Yeah, if you'd see behind me. So I have everything basically prepped. Only thing left is to fold those boxes, print off the labels, have everything printed and shipped to me, including the proof. And so that's kind of where we're at, is just kind of in a waiting game of when those get printed. They usually have a turnaround time of a few days. So I'm hoping by next week we'll have that in hand. I should find out tomorrow exact days, or getting a little bit closer in any case regards to that. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys. You guys are awesome. Couldn't do this without you. Hope you guys have an excellent and blessed rest of your day, and we will see you later. Bye, guys.